Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the Well Below Average podcast, a live stream edition with Nick Nepic and Roy White. Gentlemen, how are y'all doing today?
Doing good. Doing good on this WrestleMania Sunday, right?
It is. It is. Oh,
Hanging in there, brother. Just got done with another fantastic party hosting at our house, and hopefully the last one we will see for a while. So I'm excited for that.
all right. All right.
Now, when you host, are you what's your job? Like, are you given specific tasks to keep the party going, or what do you do there?
My job primarily consists of everything done the day before. And, normally for a party, in my mind, if it's at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you start the party planning preparation that day. But for my
Mm-hmm.
wife, as anxious as she is, we basically were ready to go yesterday at about 2 o'clock. And so,
Okay.
what my role consists of is clearing out the living room of all of the kids' crap that is out there every single day of our lives, but cannot be out there in this scenario because we have to pretend that this is how we live, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that we live pristinely. And my wife is very particular about that. It's one of those personal things that you learn about your partner very early on of what makes them tick. And this is kind of one of those things that makes her tick. So I do not fight it. But my role, I'm the cleanup crew. It's
Okay.
she says jump, I say how high.
See, my wife and I are on the same page with this. Neither of us like to host because there's that expectation of cleaning up and being presentable. So uh, we just we just kind of agreed that we don't live that way. So it's been real
I think
nice.
the worst part of hosting any party, um, pre-COVID, we used to do a big party for my wife's birthday, like right after the new year. The worst part is the cleanup after because nobody helps. Like none of like if you have people over, they just like trash your house and leave stuff everywhere, and so then you're left cleaning up all of it. Or even worse is like a holiday when you have family, and you really know the family that really like you or really care about you because they'll help you. Oh, let me help do the dishes, or hey, can I pass these leftovers if it's like Thanksgiving or something. The family that is lower on the totem pole, they just peace out and don't help with anything. That's the worst part of hosting to me.
Yeah, I'm kind of the. Well, it depends. Yeah, I agree with you. I like being the peace out part of the family. Like, I'm the second cousin, and it's like, all right, I'm getting out of here. But I'm
I
lazy like that.
definitely think, hosting has a number of parts that suck to it. Preparation and cleanup are one and two, or two and one, because they are they're the worst. And the fact that I gotta pretend that this is how my house is, you can't see it because of the room that I'm in the you know shaping and the framing that I'm doing. But if I could show you around this room right now, every toy that belongs to this 5 and 3 year old is stacked up in this room, probably about like knee high.
Yeah, that happens. It's great when they get out of toys and into video games. Way less space is taken
All
up.
contained.
Yes. So look forward to those days. It's coming. It's coming. Um, so we have an interesting show. This is Nick. You and I had some unique experiences this weekend, and we'll get into that later. But we're going to talk some wrestling, WrestleMania weekend. Um, going to get into that. But we're going to try a few different things today. We're going to get into some sports talk first. We're going to hit our news stories, and then our main topic, we'll get into that WrestleMania wrestling weekend extravaganza Nick and I have had. So let's give a shout out to our sponsors real quick. Nick, you wanna hit up Rodeo?
Yeah, Rodeo Coffee. That black shirt behind Adam. It's small batch roasted coffee right here in Fort Worth. They have a coffee truck. I guess you can call it a truck. They release new menu items every month. So one of the things they have this month is I believe, I could be misrepresenting them here. I'm pretty close. It's like a vanilla lavender latte. I'm a big vanilla latte guy. Lavender is a nice touch in coffee if you're feeling a little fancy. So you can check them out at the on Walsh Parkway in the Walsh neighborhood over here in Fort Worth, right near Aledo, off of 30. They're there Thursday through Sunday. I think it is 8 to 11 or 7 to 11:30. So check out Rodeo Coffee out here in Fort Worth.
Yes, Rodeo Coffee. Amazing coffee. Love the Colombian blend. Another amazing local company that sponsors us is Local Menace. It's an artist-owned streetwear brand. They're based out of Dallas. They have amazing art pieces. Their shirts and clothes are basically art pieces. Check them out. They got T-shirts, hats, sweaters. Getting a little warm, but nice zip-up hoodie. Still plays at certain times. All kinds of cool stuff. Hit them up at localmenace.com and use code Beard Crew for 25% off. Beard Crew for 25% off your order at localmenace.com. And don't forget my company, Ish Beard Works, where we do men's hygiene. Check us out. We have Mother's Day packages and Father's Day packages coming at ishbeardworks.com. All right, well, let's get into the show. Let's talk sports. Everybody loves sports. We have some local sports news. Uh, the biggest thing is, well, for me anyway, I got to watch a Mavericks game today, almost the whole game.
Yeah, it was on, was it ABC, ESPN? Same thing, I guess. Yeah, I got to watch that too. It was enjoyable to get to watch.
Yes, the Mavericks won in Milwaukee. Really good team out of the East. They're second in the East, and yeah, back and forth game, but yeah, a lot of excitement, and Luka looked amazing. Roy, did you get to check out any Mavs today?
I saw a little bit of the highlights. Luka was cooking up Giannis on a couple of those, and that was cool. I mean, obviously that to me was a nice win, but kind of a disappointment from what they were coming off of. A loss against Washington when they were kind of sitting there in the 3 seed in the Western Conference. So a couple games to go. They can still potentially overtake the Warriors, but it doesn't look great. And if they wind up being the 4th seed, that means they're probably playing Phoenix in the second round. And that's, as tough a draw as it gets in the West right now. Shoot, I still think the Mavs actually have a decent chance against Phoenix, but, that's not necessarily a team you want to see in the second round after getting over your first round woes, which I do predict they will do this year for the first time in the Luka era.
See, I like the way it's setting up. The loss at Washington shouldn't have happened. That should have been a fairly or a winnable game, especially not a blowout loss. But Milwaukee was their only team they have remaining that's a playoff contender. Am I wrong?
I believe that's right. I know they have the Spurs left, and I can't remember who else.
Yeah, Spurs. I mean, yeah. So there's like 4 games, and I think the Golden State had several. They have Phoenix left. They have Memphis. They may have played Memphis, but they had a couple of the top teams in the East. I think even Miami. I don't remember. It's been a couple of days since I looked, so I think Dallas still has a chance the way it's set up to get that 3rd seed, which would I think be a big boost for them.
I mean, I think the not the biggest difference. There's a lot of differences, but the main thing, and this has kind of always been the case, if role players are making shots, like the Mavericks are very hard out in any game, especially in the playoffs. Like Reggie Bullock made shots today. Jalen Brunson made shots. Dorian Finney-Smith has been outstanding. And now they have a secondary creator in Dinwiddie who's been, shooting out of his mind. And I think it certainly is going to regress some in the playoffs. And so if guys like, Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith, if those guys can make shots, and you can get, Dwight Powell had 22 today. If you're getting that out of Dwight Powell, I mean, I'm as big a Dwight Powell hater as there is. You're winning a lot of games, and you're going to win a first-round playoff series, and you can give Phoenix, a run there if that's what you're going to get out of some of these guys outside of Luka.
Yeah, I just worry because Mavericks 0-3 this year against Phoenix. That's just been a team that's had their number for several years. I don't know what it is, but looking forward to a Mavs playoff push, especially that first round win. But they look good. I know I don't want to get in this hype that they're a contender, but they look real good and still don't look like they're as good as they could be. So that's
This
encouraging.
this sort of takes us. I mean, I wonder if we're getting to the point, and they're certainly not to the complete high that we were at with Dirk, but some of those years where like you knew the Mavs are going to win 50 games, they're going to make the playoffs. Like, are they a true championship contender? Maybe, maybe not. But like every year, I mean, they were a talked about really good NBA team. They were going to win 50 games. Like they had a superstar in Dirk. I feel like we're maybe going to start hitting that groove where like you win a playoff series, maybe two, and eventually, we can hope they break through. But obviously, getting past the first round, which they haven't done, is the first step. And I think this year, if it would not only would be a disappointment, it'd be a massive disappointment if they lose in the first round. I don't know how that will happen, but stranger things have, so it certainly could.
Do you think, Roy? I've heard this floated around that the Mavs could, in the off season, unload Tim Hardaway in order to keep Brunson?
I mean, yeah, could they?
Or would they?
Absolutely. I think everything. Yeah, I mean, everything's on the table. Would they? That all depends on what they find they need. I mean, and we're not going to know the answer to that question until we get to the playoffs and kind of through that. Some people seem to think they need like a secondary scorer, right? A true secondary scorer, not taking anything away from Dinwiddie, but because he's been excellent, he's been that. It's just he was not thought of as that type of guy before he got here. So can he sustain that? Can he be that in the playoffs when the reins tighten a little bit? The other part is, I look back at the last time the Mavs won a championship. Was there a true second scorer on Dirk's team? I guess you could say it was Jason Kidd or Jason Terry, but he was the sixth man. So like that, I mean, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong there, but I didn't
No, I
necessarily think
agree.
of anybody
Yeah.
as like a secondary score. So it may not necessarily be as essential as we think it is in today's NBA.
But Brunson seemed to really come on as a scorer this year. Does he have that capability, or is he kind of maxed at what you think he could do
No,
offensively
he's
as
not.
a
I don't
bucket?
think he can be I don't think Jalen Brunson can be a second or even a three or even a four option, maybe a four, but um, he just has to be the guy that he has been. I mean, solid, doesn't make mistakes, can score a little bit, can give you a little bit of his own generation of points, and that's kind of how he has to do it, right? I mean, you're not setting up shots and
Right.
screens for Jalen Brunson to catch the ball off the dribble or anything like that. So, I mean, he's got to do what he has done, and that's provide like veteran leadership, a veteran presence, handling the ball and running the offense, and then also playing like solid enough defense, right? I mean, making smart plays when it's drawing offensive charges and things of that nature.
Yeah, so it's been a good year. I know they started out slow and have been one of the better teams in the NBA. So I'm excited about the Mavs. I wish I could watch more of them because Bally's is, you know, a greedy, terrible
Thanks,
company.
Bally's. Screw you.
Yeah. Yeah, we missed the Rangers this year. Speaking of Rangers, my fluid setup, we had a bit of a pretty big trade. Jose Trevino was traded, was it today or late last night, to the Yankees?
Yeah.
He was
Yesterday.
kind of a fan favorite. When was it?
Yeah, yesterday, but big time fan favorite. But to be completely honest with you, I mean, if you're getting something for a backup catcher, I mean, I don't know, Roy. You might know about some of these names that they got back. Were you
I'll
really
be honest,
going
I hadn't even seen the trade. Tell me the names because I hadn't even seen it.
Well, I don't want to bite my. Let me make sure I pull up butcher everybody's name.
One was Albert Abreu.
Yeah,
Kyle
Albert Abreu is one.
Higashioka.
Say again?
Let's see here. Yeah, or let's see. Albert Abreu, Robbie Alstrom are the two that the Rangers got back. So a right-handed pitcher, a left-handed pitcher from the Yankees. I mean, Trevino is your backup catcher and has been fine, but I don't want to pretend like I'm the expert here, but I mean, if you're getting two arms back that could potentially give you some innings, like the clear weak spot of your roster. One of them on the 40-man roster, so they're going to contribute in some way. I think you're okay with that. Obviously, a lot of fans will be upset. He's a guy that's pretty active in DFW, Stars games, that kind of thing. So it's always a bummer from that regard. But Rangers still making moves, whether they're big or small, continue to do things to stay up front and what people are talking about.
Yeah, the
I think.
Brayu. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, anytime you can get anything for a backup catcher, like you probably make that deal 10 times out of 10, fan favorite or not. If these are two arms that contribute in any meaningful way to the major league club at any point over the next probably 3 years, then that's a trade they won. Because Mitch Garver's the starter. He's 31 years old. He caught a whole lot there in Minnesota. He could potentially, they want to give him as many at-bats as they can because he could hit you 30 home runs with, 110 games under his belt. So I didn't really see a whole lot of, play for Jose Trevino coming up this season anyway. So I think it's a smart move for the Rangers.
Yeah, I looked up the Abreu guy, 25-year-old bullpen arm. I believe was pretty high in the Yankees farm system, but he's out of options, and that's why they traded him. So could be a potentially good young bullpen arm for the Rangers to ride with in this.
Yeah.
As
Rangers bullpen has been historically really crappy. So
yeah, so yeah, good trade, and obviously I think it shows you that Jonah Heim won out the backup spot out of camp. What made him Trevino expendable. So yeah, a good move, I think. A couple of good arms, and Nick, I'll let you talk a little on this one. We have the NCAA finals are set.
Oh yeah.
I know your Dukie's lost, but let us hear your Final Four comments and set up the finals and let us know what you think.
So Kansas Villanova, real quick. Was surprised that it was as much of a blowout as it was. Kansas is phenomenal. That program. Also, like under the watchful eye of the NCAA, they could receive some sanctions, like and get postseason bans next year, potentially. So that's interesting. Classic college basketball, really. So Kansas moves on, and Duke, Carolina. I was nervous all week, truly. I'm not just saying that. I was nervous all week. We were busy a lot of the day yesterday, so I was somewhat distracted. I didn't watch the first game. We get home. We put the baby down. We're kind of just sitting around for a little bit. I'm like, all right, here we go. And it was a great game. Lived up to every bit of the hype. It was back and forth. Duke would go on a run, go up 6 points. Carolina would come right back. They went on a 13-0 run, a minute into the second half. Although it was a little overblown. They were up 4 points. Duke came right back. A lot of fouls called in the game, which is also very just college basketball thing. What really hurt Duke a lot, Mark Williams barely played. 7-1 center, who I would love to see on the Mavs, by the way. There's a chance he goes later in the first round, so we could potentially see that. But he was in foul trouble the majority of the game, so he didn't really have an impact. And Duke didn't ever put it away when they had a chance. Brady Manick hit a couple of big threes. He was mostly a non-factor when he was great in the game in Cameron. I didn't have any major problems with any majority of the foul calls. I thought it was pretty fair. For the most part. At the end of the day, Carolina, Mark Williams going back, and he missed 2 free throws, would have tied the game at 75. Instead, he missed both. Carolina's up 75-74. And, his name is slipping me. The guard, I can't remember his name. I apologize if he ever listens to this. He hits a 3. Carolina. Caleb Love, thank you. He goes up, hits a 3. Big time shot. Carolina goes up 4, and that pretty much iced the deal. I I thought Duke would win the game. I really did. I didn't think they would lose twice to Carolina to end Coach K's season, and then before that, obviously the last game at Cameron. Pretty bummed, but Final Four run, can't be too upset about that. I hope, I obviously don't want anyone to get hurt, but I hope Kansas just demolishes Carolina. But even if they do, like, it's bragging rights forever, no matter what. And that's the hard thing. The only saving grace that I have is we live in Dallas Fort Worth. Like, I don't know really anyone in my everyday life who's gonna like razz me about this. If it was like the Steelers, like I'm friends with a bunch, like everyone's a Cowboy, like that's a little bit different. But yeah, it was a bummer. It was a great game. Like there was a lot of good shot making, athletic plays, great atmosphere. Jim Nance on the call. Bill Raftery is a legend. He was great. But it was disappointing for sure. So Kansas, Carolina tomorrow night. It tips off at like 8:20. So I probably will make it to halftime and then go to bed. But yeah, great run for Carolina, 8 seed. They were horrible to start the year, and they figured it out and hit another gear, and they basically play 5 guys. That is pretty much it. I mean, they'll throw in, get somebody a breather every once in a while if somebody's in foul trouble, but they really just play 5 guys.
I want to say, I think the announcer said they made their first sub when Baycott went out with that ankle thing, that knee that looked so bad, and that was about to end Carolina's run completely. They brought a sub in, and within about 2 minutes of game time, Baycott had tested out his knee, gone back to the the locker room, tested it out, came back out, and they were ready to sub him back in. And the guy who subbed in for him was taking free throws. So they were like, they can't do the sub yet. They got to finish these free throws because they're not taking anybody else out. They're only taking the guy out that they just brought in for him. Man. I mean, I agree with you. As a Carolina fan, I thought Duke would win the game. I thought they were the better team on paper. But, when you have the best player on the court, I think, in Caleb Love, that tilted the scales a little bit there in the end. You were right. Like Manic, he was downright bad. Not only was he a non-factor, he was costing them early in the game, but he hit two
big threes.
Catch and turn three-pointers on the baseline that were skied into the air, and they came down and he buried them. I mean, they were just money shots. And Duke, like you said, in the early going, like if they'd have just made some of those open threes that they had in the first half, they could have put that game away early. They were up 7 in the second half at one point, and they could have put the game away. And that was when Carolina kind of stormed back and I think went on a 9-0 run and took the lead back. So it was a game that lived up to the hype. And you're right. Thank God we get bragging rights on that forever, or at least as long as it'll be when they see each other again, right? Because the only time they've ever seen each other in a tournament was the NIT. And that was as big of a stage as you could ask. Hubert Davis earned himself 15 years at North Carolina or more by delivering the knockout blow to Coach K's era.
The biggest problem Duke had, so throughout the tournament, like they beat Michigan State, beat Arkansas. The reason they were playing their best basketball is because they got offense from everywhere. They got nothing from AJ Griffin in that game last night. He was a starter, 5-star freshman, going to be a first-round draft pick. They got nothing from him. I don't know if he made a 3. He might have made 1, but was bad from 3, didn't do much. Trevor Keels, who actually has been resignated or had been resignated to like a secondary role, had one of his better games of the season. I think he finished with 19, maybe 18 points off the bench. But getting nothing from AJ Griffin, I think, really hurt. Mark Williams, like I said, pretty much a non-factor. And so they were just out of sorts, I think, because of that. And, we talked about Baycott a little bit, but 22 boards, tied a tournament record. He's just a monster on the glass down there. So credit to Carolina, I think. And I'll watch the game tomorrow. But, bum for sure. Now, looking ahead, excited to see what John Shire will do. He's got a lot of big time recruits coming in. Doesn't seem like they'll fall off there, but it's going to be weird. Like it's going to be weird watching Duke basketball without Coach K. So now. Don't tell anybody this. I wasn't one of those people that like worshipped Coach K. Like I like him. He's a great coach, but I'm not one of those weirdos. Like I became a Duke fan because of the players, not because of Coach K. So, yeah, Hubert Davis, by the way, phenomenal job. What he's done, and replacing a legend on that bench, and has done great. So it was a bummer. I was really just bummed out last night. I had been up really late Friday night, so I was exhausted, like watching the game. Like I watched the volume on low. I'm like leaning back in my chair, like barely awake, and made it through. But here we are. So yeah, that's it.
Well, that'll do our sports talk kind of for now. We have a little more because you and I had an interesting weekend, Nick. But let's get into a couple of news stories, and one that kind of swept the nation that happened right after we recorded last week at the Oscars. I know it's been talked to death, and there's memes aplenty, but the Oscars, Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. So, where were you when it all went down? Were y'all watching?
I was not watching.
Social media? Nope.
I didn't see it until the next morning.
Media.
What's that, Roy?
Found it on social media, like as it kind of happened, as it was happening. Then I kind of circled my way back into the build-up and what was said in between, what was aired on Japanese television, where you could hear the uncensored version of Will Smith's comments versus what was aired in America, which was completely censored, and you had no idea why. You were looking at just a blank, stricken Chris Rock who's kind of staring out in the audience, and then you hear him say, "Okay, I won't." I won't say another joke about G.I. Jane. Yeah, that was pretty stunning. And then, hey, it kept you in your seat because he eventually won the Oscar, right? So what's he going to say in his acceptance speech?
Yeah.
Understanding that everyone's expecting him to say something about this, and he kind of delivered on that front, didn't he?
Yeah, he addressed it kind of.
King Richard was a fierce protector of his family. So you could see why. It's funny because you can see the gears working in their head, right? Like this is not it's not a terrible play by him, but it's just no one's going to believe it. Method acting doesn't really play in today's society.
I really thought it was fake initially. Like the slap itself, that part to me looked fake. When I watched the uncensored Japanese version of that, like Will Smith yelling, I was like, okay, that probably that wasn't a setup. It wasn't staged. It wasn't fake at all. I think it was, and of course everything that's come out since then, I think it was real. I give a lot of credit to Chris Rock. Like he kept his composure, like just went with it, kept going, and that was that. So it was surprising, and initially I was not a believer that it was a real thing, but here we are. Maybe it's because of all the wrestling I've watched. I can tell the difference. I don't know, but
Adam, did you think for a second it was fake?
I did. You see everything, but yeah, at first it came off kind of weird looking. But yeah, it seemed, especially when you hear the unedited audio, and you can see Will Smith's face. He was either method acting his tail off, or he was really mad. So, I just don't think Chris Rock expected that at all. He was even smiling up to the point where he got hit, and it was
right.
He thought it's maybe Will just doing a bit.
Like Will Smith is very soft for this, right? Like, I mean, that joke wasn't. I didn't feel like there was any line crossed. Personally,
I don't either. Like the alopecia thing, I believe, but does Chris Rock? Do you expect Chris Rock to know like they're a very like close to Kardashian type family? Like I avoid any information on the Smiths. Like I didn't know she had alopecia, or yeah, that's it, alopecia, and maybe Chris Rock's the same way. Like I don't watch the Red Table or Round Table show, and when she talks about all this, how am I supposed to know about her all her ailments?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, it's not like about the alopecia or any of that stuff. Will Smith was laughing when the joke was made.
Yeah,
He thought it was a joke and he took it as a joke in the sense. But when he looked across the table and saw his wife's reaction, a woman who has gone on like podcasts and basically said, like, yeah, I've had sex with other guys when my husband pissed me off. Um, that is something that, like, in his mind in that moment, I can see like him doing the calculations of saying, like, is it worth it for me to go back home having done nothing, or do something in the moment and prove to her that I won't just sit there and take that for you. Um, like, granted,
Mm,
what he did wound up being way too much, but I bet when he got home, Jada was like, I appreciate you doing that. And if that was the reason he did it, which again I think kind of is, then I can understand the mindset of doing it as a married man myself. Happy wife, happy life. And if it's the other way around, like, it might all suck. Now, was it
yeah,
worth it? Probably not in the end, but did he keep his wife happy? I think so. She can't be upset about him standing up for her in that regard. And I know that sounds like really stupid. Well, not, I mean, you guys are married, so you know it doesn't sound that stupid.
no, it doesn't. But I also feel like, man,
yeah.
if that's what he has to stand up to her for, a very tame joke at a that I mean their relationship is toxic. It has to be if that's what he has to do to keep her from committing adultery, is assault somebody on a stage. There might be deeper issues in the marriage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, yeah, if we're at a baseball game and someone chucks dirt in my wife's face, yeah, I'm going to stand up for her. But yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's a
seemed pretty
different
tough.
setting, though, in that setting, knowing that, like, you come here to somewhat be roasted. If you're a
Right.
celebrity and you're attending the Oscars, the whole point is that we're showing the world how we can take a joke. We give it all the time. And
Mm,
quite honestly, Will Smith is given plenty. He's done
Yeah,
characters, he's done impersonations of other individuals, and he understands that. So yeah, it was definitely a way overreaction. But I mean, do I think it has something to do with his toxic ass marriage? I do.
yeah, yeah. What's it? My son's been watching Fresh Prince, and that whole show is a running fat joke about Uncle Phil. So yeah, that's interesting. Been kind of dominating. Sorry, interesting dominating social media, but it's I'm kind of tired of the memes myself. I don't know about y'all.
The question
Next,
is, will Will Smith like live this down?
oh yeah, he's already resigned from the academy. I don't know what that means, but
Can't vote
it,
anymore. Can still
oh
win, but
okay.
can't vote.
oh, that's.
He,
I mean, I feel like it's less of a burden on him.
Right?
He
yeah,
can. Yeah.
I think he'll get past it. Like, I really do. I think this will not be something that buries Will Smith or ends Will Smith. It'll take a little bit of time, maybe, but within a year or two, he'll be back on a Netflix special, or he'll be back on, you know, some bright thing or something
I wouldn't
with
be
his
surprised if
son.
he profits off of this in some way.
and that's the
Ooh,
thing. It only matters if, I mean, just imagine what his streaming numbers have done. How many more people have gone and watched Will Smith movies now? I think that only helps him in the long run.
God, that's true, man. You're right about that.
So it could just jump him into another stratosphere if he plays it right.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of playing it right, I don't know what that has to do with anything, but are y'all fans of Rick and Morty?
I've seen a handful of episodes, enjoyed them, but I wouldn't call myself a fan.
Roy, have you, with kids, is the age of yours, are you able to watch Rick and Morty at all?
Absolutely. I mean, not around them. Absolutely
Right.
not. But have I watched plenty of Rick and Morty? Yes. Good show. Funny show.
So
I enjoy it.
I think it might be season 3, episode 1. Do you remember where they were in the Shoney's and they were trapped in Rick's dream? And he went on this big tangent about the Szechuan sauce from McDonald's.
Yeah, okay. I do
I
remember the
actually, I've
Szechuan
seen
sauce.
that. Yeah,
Well, there was a big fan push, and I don't know if it had exactly 100% to do with that, but McDonald's is re-releasing the Szechuan sauce for a limited time. The '80s classic that Rick and Morty went on did a whole basically a whole episode about, and I've just noticed that they've dropped it again to try.
yeah. I like sponsored ads on Twitter for McDonald's because of that. So I'll probably have to get some nuggets and try it out because see if it lives up to the hype.
Might need to do a taste test of that live on the show.
Oh yeah,
All of us dip it one time.
Yeah.
that's actually a good idea. Yeah, because I'm gonna go try it just because of the Rick and Morty thing. I'm looking forward to it. I don't remember it. It was from the '80s. I was a little kid, so I probably had it, but couldn't tell you what it tasted like. Um, Next little thing. So we'll talk about a wrestling experience, but I was at the WrestleMania last night, and I want to talk about that right now. But I noticed something in the setup of AT&T Stadium where the Cowboys play. They had curtains up in the windows, both end zones, blackout curtains, which no light was getting through. And I was very upset as a Cowboys fan to see that WrestleMania got blackout curtains and we can't get a November football game with curtains to keep the sun out of our players' eyes, or a playoff game for that matter. I put out a tweet, and as y'all retweeted it, and I've seen other stuff, so it can happen. We'll get your thoughts on the blackout curtains for WrestleMania, but not for the Cowboys game.
I think the biggest reason that they don't do it is it just looks bad. Like it just it's an eyesore, and I don't think Jerry is going to put up with that. Like as petty is petty's the right word, or as like small as that sounds, I think it just looks bad, and you can't see out, or people are just they're going to stare at a black wall. I think that's what they think. It just looks bad. So yeah, I think that's where we're at.
I just came to the conclusion that Vince must have brought those. Jerry doesn't even own curtains. Didn't spend the money to get them. Don't have them sitting at AT&T Stadium. Vince just brought those in the truck. Because no, I mean I don't have a good answer for it. It's incredibly mind-numbingly frustrating when they're asked about this particular issue, because it always comes up. Because they always play an afternoon playoff game. They never play the early game, and they rarely play like the night game. And so it almost always comes up for them around playoff time. And yeah, don't know why they refuse to, but as Nick said, that guess is as probably as good of any reasoning I've heard. Because it damn sure ain't because they care the most about winning a football game.
Yeah, I think the bigger eyesore is watching receivers drop passes wide open than some curtains.
My laptop is about to die, so since we're live, I'm going to go get my charger. I'll be right
All
back.
right. We'll
Sweet.
see you.
Good move.
Well, I don't remember. There you go.
I like the blur.
Yeah. Well, why we
Speaking
wait?
of, man, you didn't even mention the fact that we're doing this pod on a new StreamYard thing. Got these cool new, techniques. I can be in a whole different place if I choose to be, and maybe I will be, just for fun.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at what I do here. I forget everything. Yeah, but we are live for the first time. We had a couple people pop on at various points, but
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was
Well,
noticing
encourage
on
them to
YouTube.
say something. Say what's up, Johnny Boy 2.0, when they say on.
Well, I didn't see what I just see the viewing number and it was popped up, but then it went down real quick. But um, yeah, this is live. Are y'all enjoying it? We're doing good. Y'all feeling good about it?
Live video of me trying to plug in my MacBook charger here.
I feel
I can
okay
remove
about it.
it.
Trying to
I
figure
was
out
never
which.
I was never a Boy Scout, so I'm not prepared, obviously.
Trying to figure out the spot in which it catches my hand and not.
So we'll wait for that. Nick could probably still hear us, I think, but we do have one real actual news story with like news stuff. A man in Germany apparently has got 90 COVID shots in order to sell forged COVID ID cards. Let it sink in.
I'm trying to let it sink in as to what the benefit would be. How much did he sell this card for?
Um, I don't see an actual number of what he's made, but apparently 90 shots of COVID-19, all various brands and different, uh, yeah, different companies. Yeah, 60-year-old man selling them out. I don't see any, yeah, no numbers of how much
So
he made.
this is like a vaccine card trying to.
Yeah, so he's selling the Vax cards. He's getting vaxxed over and over again to sell the cards to people.
It would seem that it'd be easier to just produce fake vaccine cards than to actually get the shot so you get the real one.
They get pumped with the shot every time.
I mean, like, should scientists study him? Like, let's he did it. Let's see what's going on here. Did he just like can his blood cure COVID now? We just
Maybe.
put it in the mist
We
and
won't
spread it.
know unless we try.
Just take some blood, crop dust it over a city, and we'll immunize
Like
everybody.
certainly that can't be healthy. Getting 8 shots of anything. I
No,
mean,
no, not eight.
like
90.
or 90. Why did I say 8? Maybe I got too many COVID shots. 90. Good. I mean, goodness gracious. Like, I guess there's really no legitimate screening then of the people who sign up or when you show up or wherever you go, or I don't know, but that's wild.
Yeah, and it's pretty cut and dry. Just they're still kind of investigating like his health, but
Yeah.
it's just clear he's trying to make a buck off of doing COVID.
Like,
Germany's got the second highest.
there's no way doing all that can't somehow make you worse. That much?
Right.
Right.
That had to have had some adverse effects on this 60-year-old man.
Well, dude, yeah, because there's other stuff in there just besides the whatever RNA or whatever it's called. I mean, I'm sure that's too much of some ingredient. That's like a filler ingredient. So yeah, how many y'all triple vaxxed? What's the story here?
I've got all 3.
I got double and a boost. I guess that's the
Double.
triple.
That's the triple. That's the trifecta. All right.
I got mine at Target. They gave me a $5 coupon for anything I want. So I was like, heck yeah, I get $5 for getting this booster. I'll do it.
Heck, I'm if they're still around, we're going on a cruise this summer. My wife and I already talked about we'll get our 4th. If that makes our cruise experience easier, I'll take another one. That's tight quarters there. So we have our main topic coming up, but I wanted to give a switch into entertainment. We don't have a show we're watching right now, but I saw a movie on an opening day Thursday this week. We went and saw Morbius in theaters, whole family. Has anybody gotten out to see that yet?
No, but I feel like I'd be kind of creeped out by it.
It's definitely more horror. I think my kids were a little creeped out about it, but it was so warning for any spoilers. So all the zero people that are on watching us right now, and anybody watching the recording, spoilers right now. Um, I'll just kind of give my review. It was not groundbreaking. It did not move the needle. It wasn't unwatchable, but it was quite. We've seen so many of these comic book movies become like so well directed, so well written, well developed
Mhm.
characters. This really seemed like it was something that would have come out in the mid 2000s, as far as how they developed the story. Special effects were great, um, but they didn't. They just kind of like threw it all out there. You know, he took the serum. He's a vampire dude now, and he doesn't want to drink blood. So he's fighting that urge to kill people. So watchable. Not sure it's worth a theater visit, but when it comes on streaming, check it out.
Setting up another thing for him to be involved in, though, of course, right?
Yeah. So big spoilers here. It's setting up probably a Sinister Six Spider-Man villain movie. Now, the big question is which uh, Spider-Man are we getting? Because Michael Keaton's MCU, what do you call him? Vulture. Hey there, little guest.
What's up, man?
Say hello. All right, we're too shy.
We're too shy. But yeah, so
Yay, babysitter.
babysitter. It so yeah, that end of Spider-Man No Way Home, where like all the cracks in the sky,
Uh-huh.
that happens. So that brings in people from the MCU. So it is setting up something. It's kind of weird. Even that part is like doesn't explain a lot. Like, why would he go there? So we'll see. It's a big setup. Um, not the best movie. Watchable. Probably not worth the hate it's been getting, but you know, the bar is pretty high on those movies, and it really didn't reach the bar at all.
Okay.
So that's my little rant on Morbius. And before we get to our main story and close out, Nick, do you have a Nick hates it for us today?
Why are you not
No,
calling it
no.
the main event? Like, how are you not?
Yeah, I don't really have anything. Well, it actually is tied to our main event here, so at least part of it. So we'll just go into that, and I'll kind of jump in and let you know.
Okay. Well, our main event, the main event for this week's Well Below Average podcast is Wrastl'n. So Nick and I, different events, same city, kind of, had our own wrestling excursions. Nick, you went to Friday Night SmackDown at the American Airlines Center.
Yes.
Got to experience a show and the Hall of Fame. Go ahead, tell us your experience, what you thought. Is that your first wrestling experience?
I mean, I have never watched a wrestling event before. I've seen it on Twitter and seen people talk about it. So, like, I'm familiar with all the big names, most of which I feel like are older. And so The Undertaker was the big story, got inducted into the Hall of Fame. The event itself was pretty fun. Like, it's entertaining. It's impressive, some of the things that these men and women do. My biggest complaint is the Hall of Fame ceremony took way too long. Way too long. The Undertaker spoke for legitimately, I think it was 35 minutes. I mean, it was just beyond.
Oh my goodness! And I would have told you. I would have told you, as if you are not a diehard, skip that. Skip the Hall of Fame ceremony.
So
that will do nothing for you.
I was with a buddy of mine who was at a work event, and so we had to stay the whole time. Like, he couldn't leave. And so it was just dragging on. And he does his whole intro, which is awesome, the music, all that. He gets in the ring, and the crowd cheered for like 10 minutes, and he would not talk. He kept going to the mic. like almost like welling up with tears, and then people would cheer more and chant, and I was just like, just shut up, just be quiet, let this guy get on with it. It took forever, and so that was the worst part. Like the event itself was enjoyable. There's a lot of energy. You know, the introductions are great. It's fun. I will say they made me interested in WrestleMania, like with the build up. You know, they're building up to WrestleMania, and it made me like at least intrigued. Now I didn't watch it last night. I might flip it on, you know, tonight and just kind of see. But it made me intrigued, like the drama that they create. It pulled me in a little bit. So I will say that. Now, will I be a big time wrestling fan? Probably not. But I'm more interested today than I was, 3 days ago. I'll say that.
Yeah.
That's a win.
Yeah. Hey, and that's the thing about it. It's enjoyable. So
well, let me ask you guys this, Ashley, real quick. Would SmackDown typically be like more like, would there be a bigger main event, so to speak, if it wasn't for WrestleMania? Like, because they talked about like Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair, like, they have fought at SmackDown before, but like they don't want to. They want to do pre-WrestleMania stuff. Nobody get hurt. We don't want to give away anything big. So typically, would SmackDown sometimes be bigger than that? Like, was this a
Yes.
somewhat watered down version of SmackDown?
Somewhat. They call it the
Okay.
go home show. And it's basically the final show before the build up, right? And like you said, you don't want to see any of your best guys hurt, but you also don't want to damage any storylines, right? I mean, you've built it up and you've built up the characters in the way that you want them to be built, right? Whether one's the, antagonist, the one that everybody hates, or the underdog that everybody's cheering for, or maybe it's like someone's nursing an injury and clearly having to deal with a handicap that you're just encouraging and exacerbating in the final show. But yeah, you're not going to have any title changes, you're not going to have any big main event battles with anything at stake, right? It might just be reputation, but it's not going to be anything. It's not going to be like your typical show. And it won't be like the show, directly after WrestleMania, which is always a very hot ticket as well.
Yeah. Just in general, yeah, I think SmackDown, not really answering your question, is the better normal product. That's the one I'd rather see than like a Raw, which is way watered down all the time. But yeah, like Roy said, it's going to be they're easing into the big event, which I think a few years ago when COVID hit, they were planning, the big WrestleMania at Randall James Stadium in Tampa, and Roman Reigns, who is a big star, he's a cancer survivor, and he bowed out kind of at the last minute, and that was their main event. So you could see they were scrambled at that point. So they protect the talent on these big events like that. Speaking of the big events, I went to WrestleMania the Saturday. It was a surprise. My wife kind of had to tell me earlier in the week, but she found us. She's really good at finding bargains on things. Got us tickets. Weren't great. We were at AT&T Stadium, so we had the big screen, which was nice. But we didn't tell our kids. We put all of them in the car. We got to about into the traffic, basically, of coming in to WrestleMania, and told them what we were doing, and they were all pretty excited. My 18-year-old never watched a moment of wrestling in her life. Basically experienced, her first wrestling was WrestleMania. It's like your first football game being the Super Bowl. So kids loved it. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so you have an oldest daughter, middle, and a youngest son. Obviously, I feel we talked about your son being into wrestling. Both daughters pretty into it, enjoyed it.
You know what? My oldest daughter, Bree, she it was funny because she was just going along with it. When anybody would get hyped, she would just start cheering like a crazy person, not knowing anything that was going on. My son watches a little, so he knows what's going on. My middle child, my 10-year-old daughter, sat next to me the whole time, and she was just asking me a million questions about it. She seemed really interested. She does like Becky Lynch, so she enjoyed that match. Um, I thought from top to bottom it was entertaining. It's weird watching wrestling with no commentary.
That's one of the guys that was with pointed that out. Like when we were at SmackDown, he said that same thing.
Yeah, so you're and my son I don't think enjoyed the kind of the quiet part of it, but it had some great moments. We were talking before we went live, the WrestleMania moment, kind of a cliche thing. Um, that's why they spread it out over 2 days, but it was, it was really cool. The biggest thing was at the very end, uh, Stone Cold Steve Austin shows up. He was scheduled to be there, but it was not ever scheduled as a fight. It was Kevin Owens had challenged him, talking smack about Texas, and they were supposed to have a sit-down interview, and then uh, he challenged Stone Cold to a fight. And you can imagine when the glass broke, that was a huge. You want to. That was a 15-minute ovation.
No, I believe that.
In Texas, no doubt.
Yeah, I told my daughter, okay, when you hear the glass break, cover your ears. So as soon as that glass broke, just intense. When he accepted the match, it blew up again. And I was surprised. I thought it was going to be, just a couple of, punches and then a stunner and, maybe a 5-10 minute match. Stone Cold took bumps on the concrete. He was getting body slammed on bare concrete.
What? Did he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That dude's 57.
That's what I'm thinking, man. So this wasn't just a normal spine buster. I mean, this is a guy who has had some, neck injuries. He had to basically retire because of the vertebrae in his neck. He got tombstoned and his head did really get crunched against the canvas. Like that stuff really does happen. And that was after he already basically had both of his knees reconstructed, and was a staple of his character at that point was the 2 knee braces that he wore, old school knee braces, the metallic type of, Forrest Gump knee braces. And so it was, I'm shocked that this was not just hey, Stone Cold maybe hits him with like a running mount, a couple of punches, and then a stunner to end it. That's I need to go back and watch that all the way through. I got about halfway through it. I was kind of rewatching some of it today when I was quarantined for the bridal shower. I had to be upstairs alone, so I was catching up on it. But I'm happy to hear that the Stone Cold moment lived up to the hype.
Yeah, and it was, and then obviously at the end, it was he stunned just everybody that was near him. He's, more than Kevin Owens got stunned. I'll say that. And of course, it was another after the match. It was probably 20 minutes of him smashing beers and getting on the ropes and just hyping everybody up. He brought his brother on stage and they had beers and he was toasting the ref, and it was, the whole time was deafening.
And that was the end of the night. That was the last moment of the night.
Yeah, and
what a way to end
it. It was amazing. Like I was telling y'all before, 13, 14-year-old Adam came out. I just felt like a little kid again. It was so cool. Cool to watch my kids get all hyped up about it. I'm like, this is Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like this kind of guy does not exist in wrestling anymore. Which probably is a shame, but yeah, it was a great
kind of
great
impossible
night.
to exist. Impossible for that type of guy to exist in today's day and age. Just with all the social media and stuff that you have to like be a part of as well. You just it couldn't be.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of a problem with the WWE is, they were running the Undertaker out there every WrestleMania for 5 years. That's all he did was WrestleManias, and they bring Goldberg back, and now they bring Stone Cold. I hear Rock is going to be the big guy for next year.
Or tonight. Or tonight.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, isn't there an unknown to tonight that could happen? I don't know.
Well, the other unknown that happened yesterday, Nick, and this is like hardcore. I would say more hardcore wrestling fandom aspect of it. So it's not probably something celebrated outside of wrestling fandom circles, but a character, a wrestler who kind of whose family was made famous by WWE, but who left the company because he was extremely upset with the character that they had developed for him and basically forced him into. He left the company and built his own company or
Yeah,
became a
I
part
read
of
about
a
this.
company
I read about this.
in AEW, and his name was
Yeah.
Cody Rhodes, and he basically built his own character in this new organization. And when his contract with the old organization, the new organization rather, expired, it was kind of thought of that like, well, there's no way he could come back to WWE because he burned that bridge. In his first pay-per-view event with his new program, he basically did a bit in which he was smashing a throne, which has always been a Triple H kind of motif, if you will, a theme of Triple H and WWE. So it was almost symbolic of like, we are attacking, we are coming after the throne that is WWE and the hold that they have on wrestling in general. And to think that a character like that, who almost kind of spat in the company's face and said, F you guys, I'm worth more than what you say I am, to then have his moment last night in return in a which was, not as big of a moment, obviously, I think in the grand scheme of things, but as big of a moment in the wrestling world as probably we've seen, because the other thing that they didn't change a single thing about his new character. So, like, his new character, normally you bring a guy back to a brand and you change his song, you give him a new gimmick, you give him a new name. They didn't do any of that. Give him a new, like, setup. They took all the music from his old organization, all that stuff, and just carried it over. And, that's probably too much minutia for you, but that's like hardcore. That's the little bit of hardcore wrestling I'll get into on this.
And it's funny is I actually watched today kind of behind the scenes as they were hiding him. They had some people interviewing him, and he talked about what you're saying is Cody Rhodes, son of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, brother of Gold Dust. But yeah, he was at Stardust. They kind of went with that, and he kind of talked about he felt he probably could have handled it better because he was trying to escape that Dusty Rhodes shadow. He wanted to be something completely different, and was able to build that in AEW, and it was welcomed back when he came to WWE. What he had built up in his character, which is what they need. They need people like that can new, unique, fresh, people to lead those broadcasts. So exciting wrestling weekend. Maybe we got a new wrestling fan in Nick. Maybe.
I'm going to throw it on tonight. My wife said the TV is reserved for the Grammys tonight, so I might have to. I'll be watching it on the laptop, but I'll probably throw it on.
Peacock, man. Now that it comes on Peacock, it makes it a lot more accessible. I would have never done it. I never paid for a pay-per-view. Maybe one time in my life for a pay-per-view WrestleMania. Now that it's on Peacock, I'm like, yeah, I'll flip it on.
Yeah, I did WWE Network for a while, but when obviously that folded and went into Peacock, which, hey, great, I was already paying for Peacock. Saved me $10 a month. So, well, that's all I got for today. Roy, do you have anything? We didn't get you.
Wish I did, brother. Like I said, if I got something, I'll text you ahead of time and get into it. But no, I don't have a Roy loves it this week because I didn't really love anything.
Yeah, you're just ready for no more parties at the house, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna love my house being back to normal and us never having to host again. But doesn't mean the party's end. We got another birthday party coming up here in like 3-4 weeks. We are taking our son to the Mario Kart exhibition at Andretti Racing. Here's the catch. It's only going to be the second day in which the exhibit is even available. So we'll see how that goes. They're like in the process of building it now. And what that means from a Mario Kart standpoint, I don't know. I'm using my imagination. I'm guessing it's just a racetrack for kids. But if they somehow find a way to incorporate like a red turtle shell or a banana peel into the racetrack, I will be blown away. Right? That'll be awesome. But I'm not. I don't have my hopes too high on that one. I'm just thinking it's just a little track for 5-year-olds so they can drive a go kart around on.
Hey, that sounds fun. That's he's 5-year-old.
I'll report back. Yeah, 5 years old. Birthday party for 5.
Let us know. We need to grab some Szechuan sauce. And if you didn't know, Nick still owes us a live eating of grape nuts on the air.
Yeah, I've never had grape nuts before. I'll have to do that too.
You kidding
This
me?
goes back like a year and a half.
Wow, we can all get a bowl of grape nuts. I'll get down on some grape nuts.
I mean, it will take me the whole show to eat it.
It's a lot of fiber. It's a lot of fiber.
It's a
Need
lot of
that.
work.
Keeps you regular.
We might have to do a morning show for that.
I'll have to excuse myself every now and again. But yeah, WrestleMania is actually on right now. I just clicked it on. Amos, whatever his name is, about to wrestle. But well, that's all I got. Hope everybody enjoyed our first live experience. This is just gonna, I believe, post right up on the YouTubes. So check
Tell us
it
what you
out.
thought. Hit us with the comments section. Hit us up on Twitter. Just say, hey, let us know that you watched. What did you think? Got suggestions to make it better? All ears, right? Holler at us.
Yep.
We're not stubborn. We're willing to make moves. So tell us what you liked and what you didn't, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, all complaints to RW3. All compliments to Well Below Average Pod. But no, great to see you guys again. Until then, stay above average.